I still remember the exact moment the video started flooding every corner of the internet. It was supposed to be a simple post-match celebration, nothing more than a champion enjoying her moment. But the second I saw Coco Gauff and Serena Williams dancing side by side, something in me knew the ripple effect would be massive. And it wasn't just because the two of them looked like they were having the time of their lives. It was because everyone watching, fans, reporters, even rival players, could feel that this wasn't just a dance. It was a message. The kind of unspoken message that echoes louder than any interview or headline. The clip was bright, joyful, pure energy. Coco in yellow, Serena glowing in confidence, the two of them moving with the kind of ease you only feel when you're celebrating something bigger than yourself. The crowd screamed and applauded, soaking in every second of the moment. But while everyone was cheering, I couldn't stop thinking about who wasn't smiling that night. Because for one player, this wasn't a celebration, this was salt poured straight into a fresh wound. Aryna Sabalenka, the heavy favorite for WTA Player of the Year, watched everything slip away in just a matter of hours. And the timing of Coco's joyful moment with Serena made the situation sting even more. I could almost feel the tension through the screen, that quiet heaviness in the air when someone realizes a dream has been snatched right out of their hands. But what happened after that celebration was even more shocking. Because as the music faded and the cameras kept rolling, a much deeper story began to unfold, one that said far more about rivalry, pride, and legacy than any victory speech ever could. As soon as the award announcement hit the live broadcast, everything inside Sabalenka seemed to crack. And it wasn't the small, subtle kind of disappointment athletes sometimes hide behind a smile. No, this was the kind of emotional collapse that exposed the truth she'd been trying to hold together for months. The moment she walked off the court after losing the WTA finals to Rybakina, you could see the storm building inside her. She came into that match believing it would be her crowning moment. She expected victory. She expected the Player of the Year honor. She expected the spotlight to shine squarely on her. But reality hit harder than any forehand she could deliver. Rybakina dismantled her rhythm, broke down her confidence, and left her with no space to recover. By the end of the second set, Sabalenka looked like she wasn't just losing a championship, she was watching her entire narrative unravel. And when the match ended, the emotions that had been simmering inside her finally exploded. Sabalenka couldn't contain it. Tears streamed down her face as the world watched her crumble under a pressure she had carried all year. But what caught my attention wasn't the crying itself, it was the way she tried to explain it. She said she was just more emotional with age, but deep down, everyone knew that wasn't the full truth. This wasn't about getting older. This was about something slipping away that she believed belonged to her. And the celebration happening across the court, Coco dancing with Serena, only amplified the pain. That moment felt like a spotlight shining on Sabalenka's greatest fear, losing not only the award but also the admiration she had fought so hard to earn. And that fear was about to reveal itself even more clearly as tensions with her own team reached a boiling point. The world didn't need slow-motion replays or close-up shots to see how bad things had gotten between Sabalenka and her team. The moment her coach Anton Dubrov walked off mid-match, the tennis world fell silent. Coaches typically stand their ground no matter what happens. They are the last line of composure when players lose control. But in that match, Dubrov didn't just stand up, he walked away. And that single moment exposed everything Sabalenka had been trying to hide. What started as frustration turned into shouting. What looked like stress turned into explosive anger. She snapped at Dubrov, unleashing a wave of emotion he wasn't willing to tolerate. For a coach to walk out like that, the tension had to be unbearable. And in that split second, the tennis community saw a pattern emerging. Sabalenka wasn't losing matches because of skill. She was losing battles against her own emotions. Even worse, this wasn't the first time it had happened. She had already had a brutal fallout with her former coach Gavin McMillan. She shouted at him during a match, pushed him beyond his limits, and within days, their partnership was over. And here's where the story takes a wild turn, because only a few months later, Coco Gauff hired McMillan, the same coach Sabalenka had driven away. And she didn't just hire him. She flourished under him. That move told the world something incredibly important. Coco handled pressure differently. She listened. She grew. She built bonds instead of breaking them. And Sabalenka couldn't ignore that reality any longer. Because every time she broke down, Coco rose. Every coach Sabalenka pushed away, Coco welcomed. And this contrast only deepened the rivalry that now had the entire world watching more closely than ever before. There's something special about Coco Gauff that goes beyond her athletic ability. You can see it in the way she carries herself, how she speaks, how she treats the people around her. And that difference, subtle but powerful, is exactly why her rise has shaken Sabalenka to her core. While Sabalenka waged emotional battles on the court, Coco stayed grounded, focused, and almost impossible to intimidate. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to explode. She didn't need theatrics. She just needed discipline and heart. Coco earned Serena's respect not because she demanded attention, but because she honored the game. Serena watched her grow. She trained with her. She mentored her. She saw a young athlete who wasn't trying to imitate her legacy, she was building her own. And when Serena talked about Coco's forehand, she didn't say it needed fixing. She said it was uniquely hers. That kind of confidence from Serena carries weight. It was a stamp of approval money can't buy. Meanwhile, Sabalenka looked around and saw something she couldn't match: Coco rising without friction. Coco rising with grace. Coco rising with an entire generation behind her. And every time Coco won, Sabalenka felt the pressure increase. Because the tennis world wasn't just celebrating Coco's skills, people were celebrating her character. And character is something you can't coach, can't fake, and can't hide from when it's missing. But things were about to shift even more dramatically because Serena's involvement in Coco's journey wasn't just emotional support, it was the spark that turned a rivalry into a full-blown legacy battle. When Serena Williams steps into a room, the energy shifts. When she steps onto a court, history follows her. So when Serena showed up to honor Coco Gauff, the tennis world paid attention. Her presence wasn't just supportive, it was symbolic. It was the passing of a torch. It was a moment that told fans and players alike that Coco wasn't just a rising star. She was the future. When Serena spoke about Coco, she didn't sugarcoat anything. She praised her determination. She celebrated her mindset. And she made one thing very clear: Coco had earned every victory through hard work and respect. But what stood out even more was how Serena defended her. When asked about Coco's weaknesses, she dismissed those criticisms entirely. Serena said Coco had her own style, one she should trust. And coming from the greatest of all time, that wasn't a compliment, it was an endorsement. Meanwhile, Sabalenka watched all of this unfold with a growing sense of isolation. Serena wasn't praising her. Serena wasn't showing up for her. Serena wasn't standing behind her when things fell apart. And the public noticed. The contrast wasn't subtle anymore. It was becoming a defining storyline. Because while Coco gained a powerful ally, Sabalenka's support system was falling apart. And as the season continued, tensions between the two players only grew stronger, setting the stage for a rivalry that would soon spill into the public eye in a way nobody expected. Every rivalry has a moment where everything changes. For Coco and Sabalenka, that moment happened on the court, during matches where their emotional states collided head-on. In some moments, Sabalenka tried to intimidate Coco with shouting, fist pumps, and energy bursts meant to rattle her confidence. But the plan never worked. Coco stayed calm, even when Sabalenka's emotions skyrocketed. And the crowd loved it. They fed off Coco's poise. They admired how she never broke, even when the pressure reached its peak. And for Sabalenka, that reaction hurt more than any loss could. The public had chosen a favorite. The world wasn't just supporting Coco, they were protecting her. Every time Sabalenka lashed out, the crowd cringed. Every time Coco stayed composed, the crowd cheered. That dynamic only made Sabalenka more desperate to regain control of the narrative. But desperation rarely leads to smart decisions. Instead, Sabalenka's emotional reactions became more frequent, more intense, and more visible than ever before. And whether she realized it or not, she was creating her own downfall. Because in the world of elite sports, fans don't just watch your wins, they watch how you act when everything goes wrong. And Sabalenka's actions were slowly shifting her image from passionate competitor to uncontrolled firestorm. Meanwhile, Coco was building something Sabalenka couldn't shake, a legacy rooted in composure. And that contrast became the spark that made their rivalry impossible to ignore.